And you can be like me, because I support Personhood Iowa myself.
Is that hashtag be like Mike?
Be like Mike, baby.
This is Faith Works Live, brought to you by Baldwin Heating and Plumbing, 515-371-4036. Now here's the host of Faith Works Live, Michael Damastis.
So honored that you would turn on the radio dial and listen to what it is that we're doing. It's Life Tuesday, and ultimately I want us to do what we can for Roe v. Wade to stop it, to stop abortion in America.
What kind of shape this room is in? Straighten up.
Emma Goldman Clinic, this is Samiksha. How can I help you? Yeah, so as of now, we're still able to provide services. There's going to be a trial going on, but as of now, we can still provide our services as normal. So we can't see her once she's past 19 weeks and 6 days. Do you have the first day of her last period?
And if we don't care that God says don't murder, we will murder because it's convenient for us. And we suppress the truth of what we know to be true so that we can sin. We are not here to condemn you or judge you because you're already judged, just as I was. We're here to tell you of Christ, the way out from that condemnation.
Here for abortion today. Please stop and talk to us. There's no need to kill your child today. Please, God sees abortion as murder, and no murderer will enter into the kingdom of God.
We are God.
You are not God. That's why you think it's okay to murder your child, because you actually think you are God, that you're not going to answer to anyone.
I had some pretty dramatic changes in terms of how we've looked at social issues. That trend is continuing. It's becoming more and more conservative. I think that we were still holding out hope that there wouldn't be anything that would come out of this legislative session. And so we were all really pretty surprised and mortified that something so extreme did happen.
Probably in a very real sense, that morning after the 2016 elections, I realized that this would be probably a defining point in where I went as a legislator, and that I would be called upon to defend life, to defend human rights of every individual. And if that was the case, was I going to choose to do what was right?
And the logically understood right to life acts as a prerequisite for every other law we enact.
I don't look at this as an anti-abortion movement. I look at this truly as an understanding outside of any man-made laws that every single human life has value that's intrinsic to it.
And that's what I'm doing today. I understand that not everyone will agree with this decision. But if death is determined when a heart stops beating, then doesn't a beating heart indicate life? Hear, hear.
I am just here to support you during your time here today. and answer any questions you have. I'll explain the entire procedure to you. So now we like to just open up a space for you to share a little bit more about your decision on abortion today. You can share as little or as much as you'd like.
I guess just that it was not something that I was thinking about doing right away, but after further discussion and thinking about it, it became very clear that this was the right decision for myself. I guess I don't need to talk about it a whole lot, but I do want to state that I'm very happy and just glad that this clinic is here and that this support is here and that this is an option, especially amidst knowing that bill that was just signed by the governor of Iowa. And so I know past her down the road, it's being stopped, there's still stuff going on with that, but I'm just very happy and glad that this is an option for myself right now.
So you're 100% certain then and 100% confident about your decision
Yes.
today? Okay. Yeah. I'll come back in the room and we'll sign everything together. Pretty straightforward, I think.
I mean, for Thursday. At least I'm not on the roof working.
Yeah. Yeah. All set, or did you still need more time to read over?
Oh, all set.
Okay, sounds good. Any last questions before you head out?
I think that's it.
Can I borrow a fire extinguisher for the people outside? I was thinking that maybe you guys could be beekeepers and then put the bee hive right next to them so when they get all riled up.
Just
and
let
get
them
loud.
go.
Yeah, just let nature take care of it.
Yeah. Did they give you some trouble this morning?
They had mentioned protesters possibly being there, and they said maybe just a few in the last few months. Even with telling me that, I wasn't expecting anybody to be out front. That sort of thing, with being as confident as I am in my choice, it's not really bothering me. I have the ability to just walk past.
Just ignore it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's so frustrating sometimes. Even I'm just walking into work and they turn their GoPro on.
Morning. How did you be here today? You volunteer here? You work here? Are you aware of what takes place in here? I'm sure you are. I'm out in here of Christ. You've forgiven of sin.
Yes, we do. Yes, we will adopt the baby.
We will adopt the child.
If they even
Please
had
come out and
this
talk to
little
us.
bit of a doubt, that just makes them feel worse. And that's their goal. Their goal is, that's part of their goal. If they feel bad enough, maybe they won't have an abortion.
And now, you want to use medical definitions, I'm going to use one with you. When is a human being considered dead in our culture, in this country?
When they're brain dead, when their heart's not working.
That's what it is.
And when
Right
they're
there.
not breathing.
No, that's not true. You're not, Bob.
That's when they're considered dead.
Okay, see, in our culture, death is when the heart stops beating.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree?
No,
You
I
wouldn't
wouldn't.
agree.
I would agree that when the heart stops beating, you have a chance to revive that life. When the person goes brain dead and they have a lack of oxygen over a certain amount of time, that's when they're dead.
Okay, but now you need to Iowa Hospital right now. We will go find a brain dead person who is being made to breathe by machines and is considered still alive.
They're the same
When that
as an
heart
embryo.
stops, okay, so then I can go over and kill every one of them.
Then
Hold
you
on.
can go into this
Hold on.
clinic
I can- no,
and
stop,
adopt
stop.
an
See,
embryo.
You're going to say it's you.
Says doctors.
No, they don't.
What doctor says that?
They were sometimes here before, and I remember one time coming into the clinic when I was pregnant, and I was a little uncomfortable. But after 2016, it got a lot worse. We started having a lot more, I would say, loud, certainly not violent, but very aggressive protesters here, and we had never really had that before at Emma Goldman.
Help you.
How are you feeling?
Good.
Did that medicine make you pretty creepy?
I just had a couple of chills in the beginning, but that passed, and so I'm still feeling a little cold, but the actual chills passed.
Any questions left over about anything?
Yep.
Okay, everything's been explained. You feel okay?
I don't think Roe versus Wade is going to get overturned, although each day a little bit of that faith gets chipped away.
And here, without further ado, Governor Kim Reynolds. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm a fifth-generation Iowan. I love this state, and I want to give back to a state that has given so much to my family and me. And I'm going to fight hard every single day to continue to have the opportunity to represent the #1 state in the country. God bless you. God bless Iowa, and God bless the United States of America.
I think the people spoke in the November election. The #1 plank of the Republican Party is the life issue. And so people voted on that, and they expected the legislature to pass pro-life legislation. We're realizing our past mistake in Roe v. Wade, and we're trying to change that now because this is a class of people, unborn children, that are being discriminated against.
You can see the babies.
And we know that that is a life. It's not a clump of cells. It's not a blob of tissue. It is a human being, and it does.
You can take one and you can take a bracelet.
This one.
So this one's 26 weeks.
So that means it would be out by now, or no?
No, 40 weeks. Feel it.
Oh wow, it's squishy.
It's heavy though, right?
Yeah, he's really heavy.
So,
That'd be a lot.
yeah, can you imagine? This is how heavy you were in your mom's tummy.
Would this be like a healthy baby, or would that be like a?
Well, if it was born now, it'd be premature. So it's got a little ways to go yet, but this is supposed to be actual weight of a 26 week.
So
And then
like
this is 22. But you know, even at 23 weeks, babies can survive now for medical technology. But even when they're just 7 weeks, look at
Oh my gosh! Like,
eyes, nose, mouth,
he's like as big as my
heartbeat.
fingernail.
It's got all its parts. So these are good little lessons for people who say that those aren't babies in mommy's tummies. When they say that you should have abortion, you can pull those out and say, no, look that's a little tiny human being.
Prior to my work here at Iowans for Life, I was an adoption coordinator for about 10 years. And so I did have the opportunity to counsel many, many women in crisis pregnancies. You name the situation, and we dealt with it. And in any of those situations, I always felt that it was better for that child to be born, regardless of the circumstances that he or she would be born into.
So this size right here.
That's after 12 weeks?
So this is after 7 weeks, 7, 8, 9, 10. So a lot of times women don't even know they're pregnant yet, but look,
I wouldn't know that.
It's fully formed, it's got all its parts, got a heartbeat, everything.
Dude, you gotta come look at that. That's a baby after 7 weeks. Dang. Yeah.
I'd love to see that.
Heartbeat is not good enough. The pro-life movement in Iowa won't stop until we have life at fertilization, until we have eliminated abortion and eliminated the need for abortion, or the so-called need for abortion in our state.
Today, along with our co-counsel, we filed a lawsuit against Governor Reynolds and the Iowa Board of Medicine. The plaintiffs in the case are Planned Parenthood of the Heartland, Dr. Jill Meadows, and the Emma Goldman Clinic in Iowa City. We filed our lawsuit in state court here in Polk County, and we're asking that the court block Iowa's newest abortion law.
Iowa has a very strong pro-life community that has actually been sort of not fractured, but composed of lots of different groups that weren't always rowing the same direction. We tried to pass 6, 7, or maybe more years ago a 20-week bill, and it got bogged down rather badly because the pro-lifers could not really get all on the same page on the thing. We didn't want that to happen again, so some pretty savvy people decided we need to form a coalition where differences among the groups get hammered out kind of behind closed doors.
You are uniting for the common defense of life. The document that we will sign today, officially forming what we are calling the Coalition of Pro-Life Leaders.
Thomas More Society was one of the 9 original members of that coalition. The coalition then worked really hard on getting this legislation through, so we knew what was coming. And of course it changed as it went. We put together a proposed personhood bill that, for practical and not surprising reasons, got supplanted by the heartbeat bill. We were happy enough to have that happen.
Nothing is that black and white. It's not that black and white in law. It's not that black and white in life.
Chair recognizes the lady from Story, Representative Wessel Chriselle, for opening comments.
70% of voters support access to safe and legal abortions. 25%, that's 1 in 4 women, will have had an abortion by the time they reach the age of 45.
We have only 41 Democrats in the Iowa House right now until the election. Our role is really to tell the other side of the story and to try and create a conscience of what this really does mean for Iowans. If you take this to the people, so in North Dakota, they had a general vote on life begins at conception. So it's even more extreme, but very similar. And in North Dakota and Arkansas, it was defeated multiple times. These are not liberal states, but these are places where people are, they're reasonable, they're thinking, and they're saying, this is wrong. It's not the government's decision to make, it's the individual's decision.
Are you certain about wanting to have an abortion today?
Yeah, I'm African from Sudan, and my husband is Sudan, and I'm a student here, and I have 1 child, and 0 income, no work, and I can take care for 2 kids.
Okay, so why don't you tell me about your decision to be here today?
I'm just not ready. I start college in August, and so I just know that I wouldn't be able to handle this, and I already have like depression and anxiety, so
just a lot to deal with. Yeah. So tell me how you're feeling about being here today. Yeah.
I made the choice to be here, so.
Good. Well, before we go on, are you confident in your decision to be here today?
Yes.
If you listen to the public comments that were done before the bill was finally voted on and how everything went down, one person would talk about the benefits of a heartbeat bill.
Many were never able to conceive a child again, and those that did were deeply disturbed when they first heard that first heartbeat.
Another person would talk about how it was going to hurt women and ultimately be exceptionally detrimental to their health and life.
If you passed this bill and this was in effect when I got pregnant, I would not be sitting here today because I know I would have taken my own life. So if you were so concerned with
anti-choice groups were exceptionally vocal, and I think in a place like the Midwest, it is very stigmatized to be pro-choice and to be supportive of women's rights to have an abortion and not be apologetic about it.
Stand by. Okay. And then we'll come right to you.
All right? I met Leah, and the first time I ever saw Leah and heard her speak was at this rally. And she touched my heart. She talked about having an abortion. This was after we were in the State House actually debating that abortion bill, that was passed. Leah, you want to tell everybody your whole name, please?
Yeah, my name is Leah Vanden Bosch.
Okay. Leah Vanden Bosch. Yep. Bosch. Okay, we'll get that. And Leah, let's just jump into this.
Yeah, they were having a meeting, and I was just going to the Capitol to show my support for Planned Parenthood. I listened to the opening arguments and really realized that this bill would have affected me in my situation because I was 7 weeks along when I had my abortion, so this was now personal to me. And then I realized how serious it was. First, it was going to be a felony for the doctor who had performed the abortion, and just outrageous conditions in this bill, and it made me really, really angry.
You're hurting the women in your state, and I will not stop speaking until you start listening. Thank you.
I was so worried about what people would think, but I think I was just so angry, and I was so shocked that it came to me having to say something. I couldn't believe that there weren't more people who were outraged.
What do you say to someone who comes to you and says, what about the child?
The start of life is a personal decision. That's a personal opinion. It's not something that you can force on another. And to place more value on that life rather than my own, that growing potential life rather than my own life, it's hard for me to not get offended.
You know, Leah, I listened to your story and my heart goes out to you. It really does. But I do want to begin by saying, as a personal choice, I am pro-life. That being said, that's a personal choice. I'm also a supporter of individual choices. Me being a mother of 8 children, I, better than most, understand the psychological, the emotional, and the physical changes that one has to endure to bring forth an embryo to a fetus into life. I would rather see an individual make the decision that you made than to see you go forward with something that could be detrimental to your mental health, to your physical health, your psychological health, which would ultimately affect the way you would relate to your unborn child.
Even when it came to discussing my abortion with my parents who are pro-life, they don't understand with the life argument. There are 2 lives. My life, the woman's life, is also at stake. It was difficult for them to even acknowledge, yes, we're grateful that you're still here. We're grateful that you have a good quality of life, because all they could think about was the life of the unborn. And I mean, that was my mom's first comment. One of her first comments finding out was, I need to mourn the death of my beautiful grandchild.
And all other individuals with a beating heart in that very same endeavor. Mr. President, that concludes my remarks.
Following the debate on the heartbeat bill in the Senate, I knew it was big. You know, I knew it, and I prepared for it, and I delivered my closing comments, and I went and did all of the interviews that I had to do, and I came back to my desk, and Senator Carlin sits behind me, and he said to me, he goes, I was just reading Dostoevsky, and there's a quote by Dostoevsky that says we're all citizens of eternity, meaning that what I'm doing here today will have an impact years, decades, centuries from now that I may never, ever understand, but that I was a part of it. I was a part of this.
Allow the bill to be put on hold while this court resolves the case on its merits.
Lawyers for the state agreed to the injunction. In an interview with our sister,
Roe versus Wade is going to be reversed. The more other states get on this bandwagon and start doing things, even though you don't know the prospects, the sooner that will happen. The reason Roe is going to be reversed is because it is an utterly untenable ruling. And the justices violated the most basic rules of jurisprudence, and they knew they were doing it. They knew it. They did it because they thought it would settle the issue. We have people all over the country on sidewalks every Saturday morning pleading with women to do the right thing.
Stop. Take a moment. Pause before you go in.
Because the Supreme Court took away their right to just make a law.
You need Christ.
It's an ongoing assault from all fronts. They're a very organized movement, and when one thing doesn't work, they move to another.
I have a lot of faith that that the court is going to find in our favor. There was a thought process on the part of the people who were advocates and voted for this bill that it was a method to get to the Supreme Court, and the lawyers who are fighting the heartbeat bill have made it very clear that's not where this is headed. This is going to the Iowa court system, and that's where it's going to die.
If the Iowa judges are not going to protect children, then we need to get it up to the federal level and hopefully see this become a challenge to Roe versus Wade.
Everybody has decided this fetal heartbeat law is the strongest potential to overturn Roe v. Wade that has been put forth yet. So it's a big deal. And now with the Supreme Court, nominee and all that stuff, I mean, all of it's just playing into this. And Iowa can change our nation forever.
We lift up the fetal heart bill to you and the battle that's being prepared for. We lift up every judge, every person that's going to testify, every lawyer, Father. We just lift it up to you, Father, in Jesus' name.
God, I do pray for our church, pray for passion, Father, in our church, a zeal for life. We don't desire to impose, Father, some religious law against women. We desire, God, for life to be valued and honored in our state.
And many of the folks who work around anti-abortion issues, that's it, that's all. They just want abortion to be illegal and by any means necessary. I know I keep saying that, but it's true. I think that in order to counter some of the things that have happened, we need to become a little bit more single issue. We've diluted our message in some ways by wanting to work on everything, and the reality is, if you can't control your fertility, that impacts economics, that impacts whether or not you're able to work, it impacts whether or not you'll live in poverty or your children will live in poverty. Can you continue your education? It is broader than just abortion.
Thank you guys so much for coming. I'm so happy you're all here. Planned Parenthood means so much to me personally. When I knew I was pregnant, I knew immediately what I was going to do. What I'm trying to do in my own fight is dissolve the stigma of abortion with all of the threats we have to reproductive health care. It is more serious, more crucial than ever that we get involved. And it's just so important for our administration to realize what they would take away by continuing to defund and continuing to restrict access to abortion.
Thank you so much for continually going out and sharing that with people who are just, crappy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, please sign up to be a volunteer. We need volunteers. We need people to share their story. That's how we're going to win this electoral cycle.
So I want to tell you, this victory is your victory. Thank you for working so hard on behalf of this
Even though she
team.
was the incumbent for the race, this is the first time that voters have elected her to office.
Also marks a second historic point for Reynolds' tenure.
I love Iowa. I think Iowans are some of the kindest, most wonderful people I've ever met. And we were talking, there's no way Iowans are going to pass a 6-week abortion ban, a heartbeat bill. But it happened, and it was really real. And it was signed by the governor that was elected by the state of Iowa. And I think if it can happen in Iowa, it can literally happen anywhere.
I will never stop fighting on behalf of the unborn. When asked if this is something that I would support, I don't sign off on this. This has